The quickest way for landers to get to the camp was through the tunnels, starting from the storage depot. I assumed they'd have to attack on foot. The elevator had been the only way to get big machines below ground. They didn't, as far as I knew, have any diggers, so it would take them a while to find the camp in the underground maze. Even if they could pinpoint where the camp was, they would need to keep turning down different tunnels until they got there. But if I was wrong, we'd be sitting ducks. Pavel was listening for any sign of movement near the surface. He'd never even hear landers marching underneath. I had a sickening thought. Maybe we'd brought a homing device back with the food we'd taken from the landers. Maybe they'd wanted us to steal the food. We'd used our storeroom as the meeting room. If they'd been listening in, they'd have known everything we'd been planning, all the raids, all the places where we'd moved our supplies and spare diggers, all the ways we could possibly escape them if they did attack. But that didn't make sense. We'd blown up a key elevator shaft after we'd stolen the food. Why would they let that happen? I thought back to Coventry, Elena's lecture on how far a real leader was prepared to go to win. Had the landers allowed us to win one small victory in order to win the war against us? Or had someone else? If there was a spy, who could it be? Finn was dead. If he'd been the traitor, he'd been a bad one. Alec was starting to come around, but was still practically in a walking coma. Jimmy had barely left his bed for 2 days. Pavel? Mandeep? The other grinders? I ran through all the possibilities, and 2 names kept rising to the top of the list. The 2 living people who probably meant the most to me in the world. Fatima and Elena. Elena was always questioning my decisions. She manipulated the last few meetings to get her way and had devised much of the strategy. She knew every bit of our plan down to the minutest detail. Elena had been up top for days and after the attacks. What if the landers hadn't overlooked her? What if they'd captured her and trained her, brainwashed her somehow? What if she traded her life for the rest of our lives? No, I wouldn't believe it. Elena would never do that. Could Fatima? If I were a grinder, I would feel no love lost for a corporation that used me like that. Fatima knew the tunnels like the back of her hand. She'd be able to give pinpoint directions to every stage of an attack. She'd have been in the digger with me, and she knew what radio frequency we'd been using. No, I shook my head. That was also impossible. It had to be the landers. They must have hidden a monitor or bug inside the food we'd stolen. They must have. I'd go back to camp and look. There would be some evidence. I'd find the bug. I floored the digger and sped back to camp.